work on the product always on. So what I'm going to talk to you, I've spoken about this on many forums, too many number of times. I don't want to bore myself and maybe somebody else who's hearing me talk about this again. I will talk about something new, and I will take your permission to talk about my own story and my own a new project that I'm working on. And like I said, I will seek your permission, and with the hope that some of the views that you will hear today from me, they will become personal to you as well by the end of this brief presentation. So to get it started, I was blessed with a baby boy in 2012. Within a year's time, he started to develop some respiratory problems. And these problems were, he was constantly wheezing. He was getting tired very easily. There's a park right outside my house, and he would go to play, and I would see that, he just tires up pretty quickly. He was constantly coughing. If there are any young parents in the room, in the house, they would know what the gravity of what that means. He always had a blocked nose and a running nose. His immunity was on an all-time low. And he was just constantly, on medicines and constantly unwell. So we took him to the doctor, and the doctor said that he has a condition which is known as RAD, which is reactive airway disease. And we got to know that it's basically an allergic reaction to dust in the atmosphere that kids with low immunity tend to develop at an early age. And if I recollect verbatim what my doctor said to me, he said that more than 80% of people who come to see him, kids of this age, have this condition. So he introduced us to the wonderful world of inhalers. And guys, if you have had the experience or not had the experience, let me share with you. Inhalers are no miracle works. They are basically steroids, and what they do is they suppress your body's reaction to allergens. That's what it does. And the doctor said that you have to keep your child on an inhaler like this for the next 5 years, till at least he becomes 6 to 7 or 8 years old, and you have to use this inhaler 3 times a day. Now I'm also trying to appeal to parents in the room. So this is what I felt. That I had by now already put my child at a disadvantage. To maybe a child who is born in Himachal, or who is born somewhere where there is no dust. I say in Gurgaon, and so does my family. And in Gurgaon, if you have ever traveled to Gurgaon, the topsoil is pretty loose, and if you're driving down, you can literally see dust. Forget PM10 and PM1s, you can literally see dust on your glasses, in your nose, wherever else. And this is what I felt, that I have put my family at a disadvantage by staying here, by choosing to stay in Delhi NCR. And the moment I had this realization, I questioned myself. I said, okay, I understand now that this is the price that I am paying for staying in Delhi NCR for my business, but when did I sign up for it? Or a better way to put that would be, how could I have come to know that this is what I'm signing up for? Was there any information given to me? Did I, in my growing years or while I was settling down here, where was I to look to get this information? So my personal exploration began, and I assumed to take the shoes of a person who maybe is in the same position that I was in 5 years back when I was starting a family. And which is that how would an average Joe, somebody who's not from the field of environment, somebody who's not a scientist like most in the room, somebody who's not, who's not the person who would take up research as the next project, that okay, let me just do research about it. He's not a person like that. He's the average Joe who you would find sitting next to you in a metro. How would he make an informed decision about about what he wants in life and where should he put his family up? So I decided to wear this gentleman's shoes and go on a journey to see what is the kind of information available to this person today to be able to make an informed decision. And let me just create this avatar a little more for you. This is a person who is the typical everyday guy who signs up for things that have been made easy to understand and interact with. He signs up for things like that. So for example, a guy like this would sign up for Book My Show on his mobile. He would have an app called Book My Show. Why? Because he would like to review, he would like to read the review of the movies, select his seats before he pays for the movie. He's a guy like that who does his travel shopping on Make My Trip, where he can compare airline pricing one next to each other and then make a decision. So he's a guy who's been spoiled by our consumerist ecosystem. Now this guy wants to make a informed decision. So how does he go about it? Just like any one of us would go about it. Starting point of everything, Google. So I get on to Google and I'm wearing his hat. I've forgotten by this time that I am also part of the environment industry, running an application and all of that. And I type on Google air quality in Delhi and its impact. And I get a lot of links and I go through those links. So this is the first link that I come across. You know what website we're talking about, DPCC. And here I looked at the different type of pollutants that have been listed out, the time that they were captured, and I also see concentration of these pollutants when they were measured. And I also had the option of to look at graphical methods and things like that, which did not make sense to me because I was playing the average Joe. So I closed this and I moved on to the next site, and this one looked a little fancy. I'm sure all of you have seen this. This is the AQICN.org, by far the gold standard of data visualization when it comes to open source, open to everyone kind of data reporting. Now, you will laugh at me, but the first intriguing thing that I found was that whenever I would click on points like these, this values here would change. So very intuitively I asked myself that is it that only at these points heaviest pollution is happening, and that's why the country is measuring it here, and rest everywhere it's perfectly alright. So anyway, I looked at what was available to me in terms of graphical interface and a value. I was intrigued by this value, which at 427, and then hazard was next to it. I wanted to find out more about what this meant. After a little bit of soul searching on the net, I found this information, which, when I read through it, it was fairly generic. It was more in the flavor of an advisory. So it basically said that if you have an asthma or a heart condition, you should stay at home, or basically was a referendum of all the don'ts. I could not make too much of sense from it, and I moved on in my research. I found this site also. It was very well presented, but as I was going through it, I kind of looked at the URL. This is, by the way, our national air quality index. I also looked at the URL and I realized that this is not SEO friendly. So somebody who has put it here doesn't want me to get to it, because there is no way Google will be able to crawl and will be able to make this indexable and searchable while somebody is doing an open search. And of course, I came across the site of CPCB, where again I saw table style values. And just like it had happened to me before, I could not make too much of sense of what these parameters were and what these concentrations meant. So I just moved on from there. And by this time, this is how I was feeling. I was feeling damn lost, that I'm trying to look for information, and what I have been able to find are flavors of these. So I found on the net open public domain information tables that were not intuitive, graphs of information that I did not understand, a lot of scattered information. So it was too much of effort required at my end for connecting the dots. And then I also find some health related information, but frankly, I found them to be extremely generic and advisory style information, and I didn't know what to do. Now guys, this is what struck me as I was playing this little game with myself. That all of us, me included, because I run an application which looks pretty much like the versions that we saw, we have completely forgotten the fulfillment of collecting data. Which is that more than data, what is important is the meaning of data, and how well as scientists or as people who communicate data, how well are we able to communicate the meaning of data. That's what is the fulfillment of the work that we are doing. That is my views, and I felt that we are completely missing this point when it comes to how we are displaying or putting our data up in the public domain. Now, my thinking is that if we really want to mobilize the sentiments of people at large, we should be able to communicate to a common man. I'll pick up from what Dr. Bates said in the morning. In one of his slides, he mentioned that environment data is hard for a commoner to understand. And the answer to that is absolutely right. I have friends and family who are not from the field of environment, who are clueless about the things that we keep talking and keep researching about. Now, are their healths not impacted? The answer is their healths are impacted as well. Then why are we not communicating to people at large in a way that they can understand what we are talking about? Now then I asked myself that what is it that is of value to common man? We looked at all those graphs, all those parameters. As a common man, all this doesn't make sense to me. Then what makes sense to me? What will I value? And how can I use this environment data? So I checked with a few people, and this is a non-exhaustive list that I came up with. So what really values to a commoner is a preventive information. So basically he should be able to answer how I can avoid or mitigate the effects of exposure I am likely to encounter. He wants to find answer to the question, what is the maximum exposure time that I have without causing any permanent damage to my health? He wants to know after the fact information, that if I have been exposed, how can I mitigate the effects of my exposure? He wants to know what kind of damage I may already have caused to myself and my family by living here for the last 5 years. A common man wants to know